Okay, everyone, let's start off this episode with a little game. What do all of these words have in common? Well, they are all from newspaper headlines in late 1980s Spain. And if you can figure out what they all have in common before I tell you, then you might be on the right track for today's terrifying topic. Here's another hint. All of these stories revolve around the exact same crime, but each headline seems to point to a different theory regarding what actually happened, which is exactly how things went in real life. On February 5, 1989, a man walking his dog in the Los Alginet woods discovered a horrifying sight. This time, the victim was a man between 14 and 16 years old. He was also naked except for his shoes, which were on the wrong feet. Like Pilar, he had been stabbed numerous times and had injuries to his head and limbs. The young man was eventually identified as Jose Antonio. But after interviewing thousands of people, following hundreds of leads, and searching for clues, police still don't know what happened to the three teenagers. In the weeks and months following the brutal murders, locals began to whisper that a satanic cult was behind the crimes. This rumor was further stoked by the placement of the candle, which appeared to be a reference to rituals commonly associated with satanic worship. There were even rumors that a cult figure would be arrested but released without charge, and that the investigation was being covered up by high-ranking officials. Partially hidden beneath some rocks in a ravine was a young woman's naked corpse. However, there are a few details that make this theory unlikely. And while you're there, do you not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more chilling stories of unsolved mysteries. See you next time! For example, it's hard to imagine anyone being able to mutilate three bodies as skillfully as the killer did while resisting arrest and evading the police for so long. It was Rosario. She had suffered similar injuries to the other two victims. Here are just a few of the unanswered questions surrounding the case that continue to haunt the families of the victims and investigators alike. Why were these three teenagers specifically targeted? Is it possible that the murders were not random and that the killer specifically chose these victims? Or if the attacks were random, why did the killer decide to kill all three people they came across instead of just one? What was the significance of the ritualistic candle? Why was it placed on one of the victims, and what did it mean? Is it possible that the killer or killers were trying to send a message to the police or the family with the candle? Or was it just a coincidence that the candle was found near the body? How were the bodies mutilated with such precision? Even after decades, nobody can say for sure how the killer or killers managed to inflict so much damage on the bodies without being caught. The answer could lie in the fact that the murderer or murderers were professionals, but unfortunately, we may never know for sure. And lastly, what really happened to the killer or killers? Did they simply get away and live out the remainder of their lives in hiding? Or were they caught but never charged? Did powerful figures intervene and protect them? We may never know the answer to these questions. According to the autopsy report, the only thing that was completely intact was her jawbone. Every other bone in her body was broken. It's hard to imagine what kind of person could be capable of such violence and mutilation. And the fact that the killer or killers were never caught means that many people in Spain still live in fear that they may be living among a group of sadistic murderers. Horrifyingly, the woman had been mutilated, stabbed multiple times in the chest and stomach, and several of her ribs had been broken. She also had blunt force trauma to the head and defensive wounds on her hands and arms, suggesting she had fought back against her attacker. Although she had not yet been identified, the woman was estimated to be between 14 and 16 years old, matching the description of Pilar. So what do the words ritual, kidnapping, bloodthirsty, satanic, butcher, and macabre all have in common? They are all clues pointing to the same case, the horrifying unsolved McCastry murders. But nearly a month later, when the friends still hadn't returned, authorities grew concerned. The melting wax dripped onto her clothes and skin. The detectives believed that the candle had been placed there after she died, suggesting whoever had killed her had wanted to send a message. But what that message was remained a mystery. On January 26th, police divers searched a nearby river and found a pair of Pilar's water shoes on the bank. The shoes indicated that she had been in the area, and it seemed likely that she and her friends had met with foul play. So let me tell you everything you need to know about this terrifying crime and its many disturbing theories. In 1988, 3 teenage friends from Valencia, Spain, decided they needed a break from their everyday lives. And Pilar Ruiz, her sister, Rosario Lopez, and their friend Jose Antonio Perez decided to spend New Year's Eve camping in the rural woods outside the city in the small town of McCastry. The friends loaded up their car with supplies, grabbed their camping equipment, and headed out to enjoy some time together away from the hustle and bustle of city life. According to reports, the trio arrived at their campsite sometime in the late afternoon of December, but there was already cause for alarm. As soon as they arrived, they told police they noticed a group of men watching them from the nearby trees. Concerned but not wanting to let it ruin their plans, the teens set up camp and decided to enjoy the rest of their day anyway. But when they didn't return home 2 days later, their families reported them missing. After an extensive search of the area turned up no results, the missing teens were presumed to have run away from home together. From there, the grim process of finding the missing teens began. Tragically, 6 days later, another body was discovered about 12 kilometers from Pilar. As if discovering 2 horribly mutilated bodies wasn't enough, 4 days later, on February 26th, the police received a call reporting another dead body in the same area. In addition to the body, investigators found something truly disturbing: a small red and white striped candle that had been placed directly on her chest. Authorities immediately suspected that the 3 deaths were connected and were likely the work of a single killer or a group of killers. Over the years, countless theories have sprung up attempting to explain the crime. Other theories suggest the killer may have been a lone madman or a stalker who chose the teenagers at random. Whatever the reason, despite the amount of blood shed and the level of detail involved in the murders, authorities have been unable to link any individual or group of individuals to the crime, and nobody has ever been charged. Today, the McCastry murders are still considered to be one of the most heinous crimes in Spanish history. There are some additional aspects of the case that have left people scratching their heads for decades. What do you think happened in McCastry? Do you think it was a cult, a lone killer, or something else entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.